going to read the opening few paragraphs from a piece called Erne. Erne is the archaic name for a sea eagle, sometimes known as the white-tailed eagle, and often referred to as a flying barn door on account of the bird's enormous size. This species became extinct in these islands in the early 20th century, but thanks to a number, started to recolonise many of their former haunts, and there are now roughly 50 breeding pairs in Scotland. In this essay, I go to look for sea eagles in the Inner Hebrides and specifically on the Morven Peninsula. I should just add that there are two short sections where the voice assumes the perspective of a sea eagle, and that's how the piece starts. One moult, the catfish ran like rivers through the sea. Some had grown so lumpish we could not lift them. They weighed of seals. So we turned our wings to oars and took to rowing them ashore. The fish struggled like broken keels. Sometimes we felt a breeze and raised our wings to taste it more, found ourselves sailing back to shore. Our sodden tails were rudders through the swell. Most nights I returned to my desk and to the buzzard's feather. Holding the feather by its transparent quill, I tried to repair the wide split in the centre of the vein by smoothing the barbs together between my finger and thumb. I dampened my finger on my lips, and like a bird preening its feathers with oil from its preen gland, I moistened the barbs with spittle and coaxed them back into place. Sometimes I brushed the feather over my skin, listened to the crake sound as it scrapes the stubble along my jaw, feel the frisson as it dusts the craquelure on my hand. One evening I rested the feather next to a map of the Hebrides. Beside the map I had open a book with images of sea eagles depicted on Pictish symbol stones. These were standing stones, 3 to 4 feet high, blue gneiss, granite flecked with schist. The most impressive of these was an image of a sea eagle cut into the Now of Burhamstone in Orkney. The sea eagle's large, heavy bill, nearly as large as the bird's head, is clearly visible. The huge wings are folded along the bird's flank. Primaries meld with tail feathers, so it looks as if a comet is streaming from the eagle's back. Colonies of pale yellow lichen, like a cluster of atolls, shade the eagle's throat with covert feathers. I picked the buzzard's feather up and, holding it like a pen, began to trace the outline of a sea eagle over the map of the Hebrides. Jura's shape became the long, outstretched wing of a sea eagle, rising up towards the bird's head, as if in the act of taking off. There was the long neck on the stretch of thin mainland between Loch Gilphead and Tarbet. And there was the eagle's head, traced over the Isle of Arran, the island of Plada, lying off Arran's south coast like a raindrop on the end of the eagle's hooked beak. Then I glanced north and started to see the outline of the sea eagle, wedge-shaped tail in the Morven Peninsula. The eagle's tail seemed to match Morven's shape precisely. Just as its image had been cut into the Pictish symbol stone on Orkney, so I started to see the sea eagle's outline in the map, animating the cartography, sketching the routes I would follow in search of this raptor. I started to see the shapes of the map not as a representation of the land, but as a constellation of the eagle, a pattern I could navigate by. If I marked the perimeter of this constellation, I found I had drawn a circle around the Inner Hebrides, with Jura, the outstretched wing, stretching towards the southern edge, and Morven, the spread tail, reaching up towards the northern boundary. This was the sea eagle's heartland in Scotland. Jura, I knew, was at the southern edge of the bird's range, and Morven was close enough to feel the heartbeat of this range on the Isle of Mull, which holds the highest breeding density of the birds in the country. I wanted to walk around this constellation I had envisaged, moving from point to point, from tail feather to wingtip. I felt that if I were to navigate this way through the Inner Hebrides, I would be moving as much through the sea eagles as the land itself, travelling inside the birds, inhabiting them. The dream I have, I feel inside my throat. It comes as often as the sea returns and covers up my scat. I dream the talons on my feet are lodged inside a pike, my spicules grip its scaly back, and as I tear into its flank, the monster dives and pulls me down into the lake. My tail is like an arc of light inside the black. I am in a boat on Loch Sunat on Morven's northern edge, approaching a sheltered sea loch that branches off the main loch. Thick conifer plantations smoor the surrounding hills, and as the boat draws closer to the shore, I notice the top of one of the pine trees begin to sway. The whole upper part of the trunk flexes as if a wind is shaking it. I cut the engine and let the boat drift towards the shore. I can hear the boat's keel furrowing the kelp. Then a large grey shape detaches itself from the tree, and for a moment it looks as if the tree's branches are smoking. A sea eagle pushes itself off one of the branches to take flight, and the whole tree shudders under the force of the bird's takeoff. It seems to take a long time for the eagle to become properly airborne, as if it is trying to untangle itself from the tree's branches. Everything about the takeoff appears awkward. The vast wings are just getting in the way, struggling to break free of the branches, as if the pine sap has glued the eagle's feathers to the bark. Then the eagle finds a lift, an upcurrent of air, and it is gliding away across the wood and gaining height. An adult bird with ashy plumage and a worn white tail like the colour of garlic skin. The tree carries on swaying, as if it is still absorbing the energy of the takeoff.